Rise, shine, give God the glory, glory, rise, shine, give God the glory, glory, rise, shine, give God the glory, glory, children of the Lord. That's what my mama used to say, getting up her 6 children every morning for school. But the song really goes, arise, shine, give God the glory, glory, rise, shine, give God the glory, rise, shine, give God the glory, glory, soldiers of the Lord. Why? Because he chose you and he chose me to rise this morning on this day we will never, ever, ever see again. And that's why we should give him the honor, the praise, the glory, the hallelujah, the worship, but most importantly, the acknowledgement. Listen, he doesn't need it, but I'm sure he would appreciate it. And that's why before I do anything, I acknowledge the God who met me 33 plus years ago underneath a parked car, 3 o'clock in the morning, February the 22nd of 1990, getting high and doing all kind of sexual favors with my own stepson. I'll tell you more about that a little later. But the reason why I acknowledge him, because he did for me what no human being could have ever done and can't do, because they are not equipped. But underneath that parked car, I cried out to a God that I didn't know, but I know now, to take me out this life or show me a better way. I'm presently getting my doctorate degree in biblical studies just to learn more about the God who met me, delivered me, and prepared me from underneath that parked car to be sitting here before you now. I got my master's in human services. I wrote an EAP, Employee Assistance Program, training manual to help employees keep their jobs instead of losing them for co-occurring disorders. I have a TV talk show for the last 32 plus years here on the cable network in Newcastle County, Delaware. I am a runway model and actress, and I also wrote my first book. They were journal entries for the first 4 years in my recovery process of a 12-step spiritual program. And so you see, as a transformational speaker, as a spiritual coach and consultant, I am prepared and equipped to share with you my experience, my strength, my hope, and my wisdom. And so I want to invite you. This is the day, this is the day, this is the day, this is the day that the Lord has made, that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it, and be glad in it. This is the day that I have my free virtual presentation on why they call me Edwina B, but mainly Miss Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. Why? Because I am practicing on a daily basis to be transparent and authentic to the best of my ability. Why? Because I want to be set free from recovery, emerge enlightened, and from recovery, emerge empowered to do what? To give hope to others, help others prosper equally. So I want you to join me today. It's free. It's free. It's free. It's free. Set yourself free. As Dickie Winan says, free. From recovery, emerge enlightened. From recovery, emerge empowered to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. So tonight, Eastern Savings Time, from 7 to 7:55 p.m., I will be hosting my second free virtual presentation, providing you an orientation of building the foundation to transparency and authenticity. Why? Because I need to share with you how my 33 plus years in recovery from a 14-year addiction that ended underneath that parked car, getting high and doing all kind of sexual favors for my own stepson. That's right. I only weighed 90 pounds. Face was all sunken in, dark circles around my eyes, and I only had a few teeth in my mouth, right? So these are dentures. You should know that, right? Okay, now, all right, don't let the messenger fool ya. These are dentures because recovery gave me some 2 or 3 sets since I've been in this process. However, but underneath that parked car is when I had my knee bowing experience where the mask was off and the mask needed to stay off, but it was a process to transparency and authenticity, right? And so, while in my 14-year addiction with a mental illness, now known as co occurring disorders, I have been set free. But the flashbacks while underneath that parked car, the rapes, the beat ups, the setups. I even had an abortion at the age of 23 as a prostitute. I consider that murder. Yes, I do. And so I just want to kind of plant the seed because I have a surprise for you should you join me this evening. And if you missed this evening or you want a double dose, it's going to happen again next Thursday. But the reason why I am presenting this orientation to you is because I am so free. I am so proud, happy, loving to be me. Why? Because my creator loved me first. And through the 12-step spiritual program of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Wait a minute, y'all. Okay. This is my AA Big Book, right? Through this is my journal entries that I kept the first 4 years in recovery that talks about what it was like to leave that world of darkness and put on the pathway to the spiritual light. I even incorporate the 5 agreements by the Ruiz family that has turned my life upside up. And most recently, the transformational teachings by Dr. Sonja. Listen, I have on her shirt today. Let me see. Let me see if I can show you too. Right? She now listen. I ain't trying to be you now. It says I am a real life supermodel by Dr. Sonja. I told you I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Pops, so don't get mixed up in the message, all right? But with those 4 instruments, tools, wisdom that they provide has set me on fire. And guess what? I don't represent any of them. Mm-mm. I represent the God who met me, delivered me from underneath that parked car. So I want you to join me, okay? And I have a surprise for you because not only am I providing you an orientation on building the foundation to transparency and authenticity, I also want to demonstrate it, right? So this is me in my natural state. This is my hair. I have no makeup on and I have my dentures in. But guess what? I can take them out and say how you like me now. You still love me? Of course. Why? Because if I meet somebody or get introduced to somebody, I'm going to have my dentures in, providing my gums don't hurt. But if my gums hurt, I'm not going to have them in, and I'm still going to introduce myself. That's what being set free means to me, being who you are 100% all of the time, right? So, for articulation purposes and pronunciation, I'm putting them back in. But underneath that parked car, I was without a mask. And I was able to use that same analogy for these last 33 plus years on addressing any and all the issues that are internal and removing the mask from them. Because as long as I try to conceal what needs to be revealed, I will never be healed. And I thank God for the 12-step spiritual program, the 5 agreements by the Ruiz family, Dr. Sonja, pain to purpose to spiritual prophets. Oh, yes. And so this evening, I will be sharing with you how those building blocks were set so that I can be free, free indeed, to share with you what it's like to have enlightenment and empowerment to do what? Just to give others hope. Okay? So that's enough of that. Now, Okay, I got my glasses, all right? And so y'all know most of the time I have these wigs on and all this makeup, but I wanted to come to you just today. And whenever the spirit hits me, just to say to you, you are beautiful as you are. And so am I. And so am I. Why? Because it's an inside job. Yes, it is. That's why I'm crazy for Cocoa Pops. And I love it. All right. So join me tonight. All right. Go to my Facebook page if you can access the link. And I have the meeting ID and the passcode for you to join in. All right. So it's 7 o'clock to 7:55 because my girl Sherelle Hogan's is doing something creative on her website and virtual presentation tonight. So I don't want to step into her lane. I want to stay in my lane. Okay. So let's get to the topic today. All right. All right. Good. Woo. All right. So guess what, y'all? Listen. Today's topic is called from the Daily Reflections, Self-Examinations. Now, let me give you a little bit of history about the 12 spiritual principles that I have been practicing after learning, applying them, dissecting them, evaluating them, assessing them, conducting surgery on them, right? Right? And how they have helped me to agree with Donald Lawrence, who says in his song, Spiritual, we are not a natural being having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings living and walking this natural experience here on this earth called life. When we apply the spiritual principles to all earthly matters, we will be joyous, happy, and free. Yes, because we will learn to wear the world like a loose garment. I never understood that, right? Because listen, loose, I'd rather have them off. Yeah. I told you, listen, I love me today. And so I want to be able to explain to you the process of the 12 spiritual principles that are spiritual in nature through spiritual awakening, spiritual experiences, and spiritual transformation in order to achieve a psychic change in our thinking. Alcoholics Anonymous could also be used as an acronym for attitude adjustment, right? And so when we go through the 12 spiritual principles that most of us, if not all of us, have been led to by no desire of our own. So it was through humiliation that I gained humility underneath that parked car to cry out, whoever they say you are, take me out this life now or show me a better way. But it also helped me to confess with my tongue that he is Lord. He is. Because no human power could relieve me of my alcoholism, mental illness, but God could and would if he was so, even though I didn't know him. I knew him as a punishing God. That's what I was taught. And so through the 12 spiritual principles, we first, step one says we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, and you substitute whatever you're powerless over that has made your life unmanageable. So it reads, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives were unmanageable. Step two says, came to believe that a power greater than us could restore us to sanity, which only means soundness of mind, right? Step three says, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And step four is the first tangible exercise that we do to find out that there's nothing wrong with us, but there was plenty that happened to us. And so that fourth step inventory instructs us to go all the way back as far as we can remember to learn where those attitudes, ideas, behaviors, actions, belief system were first formulated, in what environment, by whom, and what part we played in it, right? And so the 5 agreements by the Ruiz family calls that process domestication. Okay. And so that's why I need you to get that book as well. And so with that fourth step, we find out the inventory of our spirits, that occupy this same vessel. And so character defects are nothing more than God-given natural instincts that have far exceeded their intended purpose and therefore has made our character defective. And that's all we learn to have the willingness to have our God, as we understand Him, remove those defects in His time and in His way. And so it is a lifetime journey, a lifetime process, because we will never, ever be perfect, but we can be satisfied with making progress. We learn to stumble forward, fall forward, trip forward, but always in a forward position. Okay. And so now the topic for today is self examination, which is a part of the inventory that we do and the domestication process of going back to unlearn all the things that we learned, in particular, that put me underneath that parked car that was based on a lot of lies. But I'm not blaming anybody because they didn't know. I understand now what that saying says. God forgive them, for they don't know what they do. And so, the blame game is out of my mouth and out of my thoughts because I understand why. Because I'm honest, I'm open-minded, and I am truly willing to be totally transparent and authentic. The sooner I tell myself the truth and accept the truth, the sooner I can begin the healing process, right? All right, and so self-examination is our topic today. All right, so now open up your spiritual eyes, open up your spiritual ears, and let's dissect this baby. But can I take a drink first? A drink of my ginger tea. Now, I don't know what you're drinking, but I'm drinking ginger tea, right? So let me make sure it's not too hot. Wait. It's not that bad, okay? But I'm just going to take a sip again. Okay. You ready? Because I like dissecting these bad boys. All right, so let me put up on the screen. Take this out and put this up. It says, right, April the 20th, self-examination. One of our co-founders extracts a quote off of page 86 of the AA Big Book that states, ... We ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. The person in recovery shares their experience and perspective by stating, when said seriously, when said sin, when said sincerely, okay, these teeth get in the way. And then I also, wait. And then I also suffer from Bell's palsy. So, between my dentures and the Bell's palsy that I had suffered a few years ago, sometimes I'm thinking too fast, but that's no excuse. I just wanted to clarify some things. Okay, so let's start again. All right. So the person from recovery shares his perspective. When said sincerely, this prayer teaches me to be truly unselfish and humble, for even in doing good deeds, I often used to seek approval and glory for myself. By examining my motives in all that I do, I can be of service to God and others, helping them do what they want to do. When I put God in charge of my thinking, much needless worry is eliminated, and I believe He guides me throughout the day. When I eliminate thoughts of self-pity, dishonesty, and self-centeredness, as soon as they enter my mind, I find peace with God, my neighbor, and myself. Woo! Woo! See, this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, right? Because having that 14-year addiction that brought about, I believe, my mental illness has taught me that, a lot of things happened and that there was nothing wrong with me. That first was a big relief. But also by thinking I was all that, the dip, the chip, the can, that the jar that it came in, all my pride and ego and the great I am put me underneath that parked car, right? 33 plus years ago. And so when I think about self-examination, I have to ask myself, and looking back now, how did I get underneath that parked car? How? Edwina, you was the class vice president, co-captain of the cheerleader team, deemed the one to most likely to succeed, told by your parents that you were the smartest of the six children. Yes, Edwina, why are you underneath that parked car? And so when I had that humiliating experience, met my face literally on the ground, underneath that parked car, there it is. The picture was recreated to show authenticity, right? And this is how authentic I am. So this is my journal that I kept the first 4 years in recovery, right? By giving a suggestion from my temporary sponsor at the time. And she said, Edwina, when you go to meetings, you lie. When you go to counseling, you lie. When you go to therapy, you lie. And she was right, because I've learned that I also had the PBDs, the people pleasing disease. I would just tell you what I think you want to hear so you can get off my back, right? But in reality, she was saying to me, Edwina, you need to be true to yourself. So keep this journal as often as you can and write what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what your hopes are, what your fears are, what your behaviors, what your actions are. In other words, share with yourself your daily journey through this process of spiritual recovery that you don't know nothing about. But guess what? You know what the past is about. You know what underneath that parked car was about, right? You don't want to go back there, do you? Oh, hell to the no. You want to give anything or anybody that much power to take you back there? Oh, hell to the no. Do you want to tell God to kiss your behind after He placed you in this recovery process? Hell to the no. All right, then. So I need you to keep a journal. And guess what, y'all? I had no idea God was going to publish the journal, right? But in terms of authenticity and transparency, that's when I know that I was on the right journey. Why? Because even though I typed it out, right? But I actually have the journal entries right in there just to show you authenticity, right? Because some people lie when they write. Not me. I wanted to show you that I'm transparent. I ain't got to bluff about nothing. All the errors, the run on sentences, the misspelled words, I don't care, because the book is called As It Was Written, and it is my journey from crack to Christ, who I accepted as my higher power, right? And so as a result of being authentic with myself from the beginning and transparent, I know the value of wanting to set myself free. All right. And so when we embark on the fourth step, that inventory, it talks about self-examination. Okay, so let's go through this again. Let's put that there and let's dissect this bad boy. Okay, so here it says, the co-founder, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it is divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Okay, now listen, I know you know, I know you know, I know you know that I know. Huh? We know when we're lying. We know when we manipulating. We know when we conniving, right? Now, I'm saying that because as children, not knowing, it was more instinctual, right? That, we learned some things to get our way, right? And so that same attitude, that same way of thinking, that same behavior perpetuated itself throughout our lives, even up until now. Mhm. So we know what self pity means. We know what being dishonest means. Yeah. We know, we also know, what they say about self seeking motives, right? We know what that means, right? And so in this process, after having your need experience, right, you are to a point where I surrender all, right? And so when you have that knee bowing experience, you only have it once. because you become convinced that there's no other way, right? And so underneath that parked car, that was it for me. I was done, 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 right? Trying to commit suicide, robbing dead bodies, stepping over dead bodies, seeing them stacked up in the basement, right? Conniving and manipulating those teenagers to give us some money as a prostitute. We give you some service. Yes. So we know what it is to be having self-pity, dishonesty, and having self-seeking motives, right? Now, if you don't want to admit it to yourself, I'm going to admit it to you. Why? Because all human beings are ill to some extent. You better believe it. And all human beings can benefit from these 12 spiritual principles, the 5 agreements by the Ruiz family, transformational teachings by Dr. Sonja, and this 12-step spiritual program. Okay, so let's dissect what the person in recovery shares. Okay, so he says, or she says, when said sincerely, this prayer teaches me to be truly unselfish and humble. Let's stop there. When said sincerely, I could not have been more sincere. While underneath that parked car, I was done. At the age of 34, I was done. Getting high and doing all kind of sexual favors for my own stepson, I was done. Catching STDs, one that turned into cervical cancer, I was done. Being humiliated, laying on my back and on my knees as a prostitute, I was done. The self-loathing, the hatred, the guilt, the remorse, the degrading situation, the hopelessness, the helplessness, I was done. I was done. So you better believe, sincerely, I was definitely sincere. Take me out now or show me a better way. Okay? All right. And so he goes on to say, right? So it was through that humiliating experience that I gained, humility. And I was asking to be truly unselfish, right? And so, for even in doing good deeds, I often used to seek approval and glory for myself. Now, when I say this is a lifelong process, our humanness is what we have been addicted to majority of our lives until we had that knee-bowing experience where we see that this is only the vessel and what spirits are occupying it to get its job done. All right. And so because of that humanness, that spirituality takes time. It takes time. And the acronym for time is this: I must earn. So even unconsciously, sometimes and consciously, we seek approval for things we said, things we done. We want a pat on the back. But guess what? It happens less and less and less because all the credit really goes to our higher power. And when we want to give ourselves knowledge, of the praise and stuff, we are reminded right away, it ain't you. Oh, hell no. It ain't you. If it was you, you would have stopped years ago. Okay. All right. So we understand that type of character defect, which it is, will be eliminated, diminished, right? In God's time and in his way. But all we have to do is be honest. I know. All right. Just be honest and ask for help. And that's where the 7-step come in, right? Humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings, which we now know are defects, and we know we still have them. And we say that immediate prayer, and he can remove them. He will remove them. I am convinced because he's done it for me. All right. So then I got a couple more minutes. He says, by examining my motives in all that I do, I can be of service to God and others, helping them do what they want to do. Okay. It says here, by examining my motives, that inventory, like a store, the inventory of ourselves, of our spirit. One of the things I've learned to ask myself, Edwina, is what you thinking, what you want to do, is what you want to say. Is it going to feed the flesh or is it going to feed the spirit? And guess what, y'all? Sometimes I say, God, fellowship, I'll be right back. I'm going over here. I know I'm going I make a conscious decision. I know what I'm doing because that's what I want to do. But the more I rely on the God of my understanding, the more I rely on the 12 spiritual principles, the information from the 5 agreements, the transformation teachings by Dr. Sonja, guess what? I don't go over there that often. I still do once in a while, which is my humanness, but that's okay. I'm aware. And that's the beautiful thing about recovery. We become aware. All right. And so then he says, right, when I put God in charge of my thinking, much needless worry is eliminated. And I believe he guides me throughout the day. Listen, all day long. There was a coach Cheryl yesterday from Dr. Sonja's purpose-driven businesses, right? And she was talking about the empowerment, being empowered. And the Ruiz family talks about it too. Like, be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make any assumptions, right? Always do your best. And be skeptical, but learn to listen. And so Coach Cheryl was basically talking about, and like the others, when we start getting negative thoughts, hit that pause button. Because you hit that pause button. Hit it. Hit that pause button. Halt. Neon lights, right? Halt. Because if we don't stop it when we know it's there or it's coming, and we don't change the narrative, and we don't stop that negative thought from penetrating, we can replace it with something positive. Yes. So that means, God, help me to be divorced from self-pity, dishonesty, all the character defects that prevents me from being of service to you and our fellow man. Okay. All right. I gotta go, y'all. All right. So then the last thing it says here, right? When I eliminate thoughts of self-pity, dishonesty, and self-centeredness, as soon as they enter my mind, I find peace with God, my neighbor, and myself. See, I'm happy, joyous, and free because I practice, allowing God to direct my life. I will, one day at a time, not give anything or anybody that much power to remove me where God has placed me. If he put me underneath that parked car, he made provisions for me to come from underneath that parked car, only to be prepared to sit before you to let you know, I got something to share with you. I got something to tell you. My own experience, my strength, my hope, my wisdom, and my perspective on the journey to transparency and authenticity. So remember to join me tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern Savings Time, so I can provide you the orientation on building that foundation. If it's God's will that you and I are rejoined tomorrow, I'll be here. You'll be here if he asks us. Not even ask us, he tells us to rise. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, and now I see. Your grace and mercy brought me through. I'm living this moment because of you. I want to praise you and thank you too, for it was your grace and your mercy that brought me through.